let's talk about the Alex Jones effect. We saw it as jokes beginning the day after. Oh, I hope you got $1 billion. You said something that hurt someone's feelings. I hope you have $1 billion. Oh, you said something false that hurt somebody's feelings. I hope you have $1 billion. And I'll put the caveat to this. I've said it before, and some people don't even like it. In the ordinary run of things, if Alex Jones had gone through a normal trial, an actual trial within whatever statute of limitations applied, I could see him being held liable for certain statements he made easily. What the quantum should be for a fair, just compensation, not $1 billion. But I could have seen that happening in the ordinary course of things for certain defendants, for certain specific comments, mitigated by the mitigating factors that were not allowed to be presented in that trial. I could see that happening. So it's not, we all know this. Free speech does not include defamation. It does not include the right to say threats, true threats in America. Free speech is not unlimited speech. It's protected speech. And people say factually incorrect statements that damage reputations or that cause harm. That's a limitation on free speech, or at the very least, flip side, there's consequences to people who want to exercise their speech that way. The problem, and anybody who has the slightest conscience or sense of justice, should be everyone deserves a trial, and regardless of how egregious you think their conduct is, they still deserve a trial. Even if they are foreclosed from pleading, they have the right to cross-examine, they have the right to insist that the plaintiff make their case before a jury, which was denied to Alex Jones. So even if he had gone through a trial in the fairest of circumstances, I could see some of his statements being actionable and being punished. Fairly and justly, a different realm. Others might have been time barred. Others might have been unspecified as relates to the individuals about whom the statements were made. And others might be just not actionable. But the trial is what it is. My goodness, they're back at 11:55. Hold on, let me put it on pause and we'll come back to it afterwards. They're back at 11:55 and I'm wrong. Let me just put the whole thing on pause. Ottawa's hearing. Damn it. Ottawa public hearings. I'm going to put it on mute and we'll come back to it after I finish this segment. So the Alex Jones effect in real time right now. The day after the verdict, everyone's on Twitter. Oh, don't, you insult somebody? $1 billion. You get $1 billion. You get $1 billion. Well, now Kanye West is being threatened with a suit from the family of George Floyd for statements Kanye made, what day is it today? Apparently yesterday, about his opinion or what he believes to have been the cause of death of George Floyd. He made a statement that George Floyd, and this is Kanye's statement, interwebs, interworlds, this is Kanye's statement, although it was a disputed fact at trial, it was a position of the parties at trial that George Floyd died from a drug overdose and not from asphyxiation from the knee to the neck of, I can't believe I can't remember his name now, Derek Chauvin. Now, ultimately, the jury found that the cause of death was Derek Chauvin and not drug overdose, so the defense didn't work, but it was a defense raised by Chauvin at trial. Kanye West is on a podcast and makes this affirmation or makes a statement to this effect. And the Alex Jones effect, rippling in real time, being what it is, lo and behold, hey, $1 billion, Kanye. You said something that someone thinks is factually incorrect. By the way, a judicial fact is a little different than a fact. But nonetheless, judicial fact, the jury found the cause of death was not fentanyl overdose, it was Derek Chauvin's knee. Kanye gets on a podcast and says something which is factually incorrect to the judgment in this case. For now, by the way, there is an appeal that's going to go down. Fact today might not be fact in 3 years from now, if ever the decision gets overturned on that aspect of causality. Because bear in mind, people, if it were the case that George Floyd did die or would have died from drug overdose, there's a causal link between a causal sever in the chain of events that could have incurred the culpability of Derek Chauvin. It's going to go to appeal, presumably, although maybe not, because Chauvin did plead guilty to federal charges. So let's just assume it's a judicial fact. Kanye West says something different, and now the family's saying, you can't defame a dead person, but you said something that we think is factually incorrect, and it's causing us distress, and we might pull an Alex Jones, or we might pull George Floyd's family. We're looking at the same thing. has said it may sue Kanye West for suggesting Floyd's brutal, caught-on-camera death under the knee of a murderous Minnesota cop was really a fentanyl overdose. There's a lot of descriptiveness in there for journalism. George Floyd's family has said it may sue Kanye West for suggesting Floyd's brutal, caught-on-camera death under the knee of a murderous Minnesota cop was really a fentanyl overdose. Quote, while one cannot defame the dead, the family of George Floyd is considering suit for Kanye's false statements about the manner of his death, the attorney Lee Merritt confirmed late Sunday. Quote, claiming Floyd died from fentanyl, not the brutality, established criminally and civilly, undermines and diminishes the Floyd family fight. Merritt said that the members of the Floyd family contacted me distraught over the reprehensible remarks that Kanye shared in an hours-long interview on the Drink Champs podcast Sunday. They're going to have to call him Boozy, not Yeezy. Boozy Easy. During the Boozy chat, West, now named Ye, said he was inspired by watching The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, the documentary about Black Lives Matter by Candace Owens, whom the rapper modeled his controversial White Lives Matter t-shirt with. This is the tweet from the attorney for the Floyd family. They hit him with, quoting Kanye West, people. Everyone. I'm quoting Kanye West. I also took flack for saying early on that Chauvin was probably guilty. The trial did raise some, I think, legally did raise some meaningful, reasonable doubts. Not enough for the jury, but it was, if you want to know how the practice of law should look, the defense did a pretty decent job raising reasonable doubts. As good a job as they could have done, given the very damning video evidence. Quoting Kanye, quote, they hit him with the fentanyl, end quote. West insisted on the May 2020 death of 46-year-old dad Floyd that sparked international race riots and protests. Quote, if you look, the guy's knee wasn't even on his neck like that, end quote. Ye insisted of then Minneapolis cop Derek Chauvin, who was later convicted of murder. I'm not sure that I agree with that observation. I know some have tried to reenact and gotten in trouble on YouTube for that, but I'm not sure I agree with that observation. But I would probably take that as Kanye's opinion. Can one have an opinion that contradicts a court ruling? This is the world we're going to be living in hitherto, under the Jones effect. Can one have an opinion that disagrees with a court finding? Court findings now, by the way, are undeniable factual truths. So wrongly convicted individuals historically cannot question them anymore. Oh, but you can then. But this is a serious question. A court ruling, the court says, yeah, guilty. Can I not say, I still think the guy was innocent? Do I have to, am I compelled to say that O.J. Simpson was innocent? O.J.'s going to threaten me with $1 billion lawsuit if I come out and say, I think O.J. Simpson is guilty, despite being found not guilty? Think about where we're going, people. O.J. was acquitted. I don't think he was innocent. Barnes thinks he was innocent. Maybe Barnes thinks he was legally innocent. Oh, can O.J. sue me for $1 billion now for saying, I think O.J. was guilty, even though he was found not guilty by a court of law? Well, if we want to go with the new Alex Jones precedent that Lee Merritt is putting out there, if you say you think O.J. Simpson is guilty of murder, despite having been found not guilty of murder, you open yourself up to a defamation lawsuit. It'll upset O.J. It'll upset his family. Ye also dismissed Floyd's emotive cries for his mother, which was captured in onlookers' harrowing video of his death while pinned to the ground by 4 cops with Chauvin's knee on his neck. This came out at trial. They said he screamed for his mama. Mama was his girlfriend. It's in the documentary. Said Ye, who called himself, quote, Moses out there, and the new, quote, Godfather Michael Corleone. All right, whatever. That's not in the documentary. That came out at trial, or that was an argument at trial, that Mama was the nickname for his girlfriend who was in the car, or who was he was calling out for as he was getting assaulted. Chauvin, who kept his knee on Floyd's neck after he'd gone limp, had also tried to blame drugs found in the system, in his system for his death. However, the medical examiner and a flurry of other experts all made it clear that the cause of death was lack of oxygen and compression on Floyd's neck. And here we got the picture. Chauvin accepted as much when he pleaded guilty to a federal charge for depriving Floyd of his constitutional right to be free from unreasonable force from an officer. I think that might be an arguable statement. He might have pleaded guilty to violating constitutional rights, but not admitting guilt to causation of death. The defendant held his knee across Mr. Floyd's neck and his shoulder, and his right knee on Mr. Floyd's back and arm. His plea agreement in that. Oh, the defendant held his left knee across Mr. Floyd's neck, back, and shoulder, and his right knee on Mr. Floyd's back and arm. His plea agreement in that case stated. As Mr. Floyd laid on the ground, handcuffed and unresisting, the defendant kept his knee on Floyd's neck and body, even after Mr. Floyd became unresponsive. The offense resulted in bodily injury to and the death of George Floyd, it added. The offense resulted in bodily injury to and death. That sounds like an admission of guilt. As well as a potential lawsuit. The statements by West, who is already under fire for anti-Semitism, sparked further outrage by civil rights leaders. Okay, never mind. I was going to say something. Activist Lance Cooper was among many who said the Floyd family should sue Kanye, just like Sandy Hook families sued Alex Jones. George Floyd didn't die because of fentanyl. That racist overdose theory. A black man is raising that theory, and they're calling it a racist overdose theory. Was used to smear his name in court. The drug content was not a contested fact in court. The question was whether or not it reached the levels of lethal dose. I don't think there was no disputed fact on whether or not Floyd had drugs in his system. The only question was whether or not it was the cause of death, and the experts said no, and the jury found no, it was the knee to the neck. But disagree with a judicial finding now. Defamation. Let's finish up that article and then we'll get back to this hearing. But this is it. This is the new world, people. Martin Luther King's youngest daughter, Bernice King, said she was, quote, praying for George Floyd's family, who, after erroneous, terribly insensitive comments that never should have been made, are enduring more today than they were yesterday. During the chat, Kanye wore a cap with 2024 on the front and made clear he planned another run for the White House. Well, that probably won't go very well, but so that's the latest now. The Alex Jones effect. Opinions. This is going to be the question. Is he making a statement of fact, or is he making a statement of opinion? I don't care what the jury found. I believe and I feel. I saw a documentary. This is my conclusion. This is my opinion. Even if it is made as a statement of fact in the mind of Ye, it was the defense raised during the trial. So there will be, in theory, at the very least, litigation privilege. If he's reiterating the defense raised by the defense at trial, even if it wasn't withheld by the jury, can that be defamation now? This is what we want. Espousing a belief that was promoted as a theory during trial. Nope, can't do it anymore. Now it is verboten. No longer any room for discussion on it. And if you talk about it, and if you say what you think, and it runs counter to the narrative of the time, $1 billion lawsuit. It can never come to me. If I say, let me think of something, for example. Oh, I don't know, that politician who claimed that Brian Sicknick was bludgeoned to death. If I'm Brian Sicknick's family, $1 billion lawsuit. Anybody who says Brian Sicknick was killed by the group, by the mob of Trump protesters. Oh, hold on. Let's just do this actually in real time. Let's just do this in real time. Hey, New York Times. Sicknick killed by mob of Trump protesters. Let's see if this is still up. It is. He dreamed of being a Capitol police officer, then was killed by a pro-Trump mob. The death of Brian Sicknick, a military veteran and experienced Capitol police officer, amplified the tragedy of Wednesday's riots and undermined Trump's pro-law enforcement claims. Oh, this is still available. In fact, it's not even behind the typical paywall. Published January 8, 2021. Updated March 24, 2021. New information has emerged regarding the death of the Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick that questioned the initial cause of death provided. Oh, I'm sorry. Even your update is a pathological lie, New York Times. You're making a factually incorrect statement about somebody's cause of death. Lawsuit. You should be found guilty by default verdict and $1 billion. This is still online. And even the correction is bullcrap. And I'll read it again, just so everybody understands. The New York Times. He dreamed of being a police officer. Then he was killed by a pro-Trump mob. Brian Sicknick, who coroners determined died of natural causes of a stroke. And it was known at the time, by the way. Who was it that the other guy there? Viva, Fry, Sicknick. I tweet. Who was it that just said it? Oh, wait a minute. Do we have a politician? Was it what's his name? Mondaire. Mondaire.
Mr. Roy, you too are an attorney. Mr. Bishop speaks often about how brilliant of an attorney he is. You know that at least one Capitol
police officer was bludgeoned to death by the crowd at the January 6 riots?
I said a police officer was bludgeoned to death. I did not say at the hands of whom, Mr. Bishop.
Who are you referring to, if you don't mind saying?
I can get that information for you in a few minutes.
Well, I just want to make sure, because
are you denying that that at least one Capitol police officer was murdered in the midst of what happened on January 6th?
Yeah, I think I am denying. I mean, here's what I understood, that there were reports early on that
we don't need to watch this again. Mondaire is his name. Politician making a factually incorrect statement about someone's cause of death, which should cause distress to the family. Rep Mondaire Jones. Yep. Rules are rules, even if they're bad rules, right? Now, hold on. I saw some super chats which disappeared. Rumble rants. Sorry. Rumble rant from TJ61. I would love to watch if you were testifying. And that's at the we'll see if I can get up there. Where to get merch? Oh, yeah, I put it there. VivaFry.com for anybody who wants merch. There's some, nice shirts, hats, bumper stickers, and whatnot. So that's it. Hey, rules are rules, even if they're bad rules that are totally unjust. Oh, unless we always knew that they were only going to be weaponized in a partisan, politicized manner to one side. Mondaire is not going to get sued for $1 billion, even though he lied about the cause of death of an individual, which I would imagine causes distress to the family. Sicknick died of a stroke. Coroner confirmed it. It was bunk from day one that he got bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher. New York Times said it, affirmed it, and even their correction does not adequately correct it. Mondaire, 2 years later, is repeating that a police officer was bludgeoned to death. Lawsuits. No? That's how it works.